Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back after the lunch break. We are now going to start our fifth session of the day by Bengaluru Chapter. It's going to be a panel discussion on the topic of yes isn't always an option, art of saying no. We have some amazing panelists today, and Abhinav is going to be the moderator for the session. So before we begin this session, I would like to thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots. It is a leading consulting and training service provider, helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. Please visit www.innovationroots.com to check out their upcoming summits and training. Thank you. And next, I would like to thank our sponsor, Agile. Agile is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services Limited. It is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprises can use Agile to adopt agile practices or scale across multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as SAFe, Disciplined Agile, Less, and more. You can try out Agile for free up to 20 users for 1 year by signing up at agile.io or reach out to us for any inquiries or exclusive product demo. Check out the Agile page on Agile Network India website for more information. Thank you. Now I would like to pass on my mic to Abhinav so that he can start with the introduction of himself and the panel. Over to you, Abhinav. Thank you.
So, thanks, Prakash, and good afternoon, everyone. So, today's topic of discussion is yes isn't always an option, art of saying no. We all know that yes isn't always an option, but how many times we had said yes when we really meant no? At least I have. Today, we are joined by our esteemed panelist members who will share their experience on how they navigated through this choice dilemma. Before we begin our deep dive into this topic, let's go around the table for introduction. Starting with me, this is Arnav Chittora, and I'll be the moderator of today's session. I work with Morgan Stanley as a program manager and has a total of 8+ years of experience. My interest areas include process design and implementation, along with data analytics and visualization. Over to you, Savita.
Thank you, Abhinav. I'm Savita. I work with Chief of Staff at Allstate to drive some of the strategic initiatives, and also I teach Agile Scrum. Earlier to this role, I was a SPC teaching and training folks on different sessions of SAFe and as well as setting up the Agile COE. My area of interest in my current role is how GICs, GCCs evolve, from being a cost arbitrage to value-added entity. So that is my kind of favorite area. And before Allstate, I also had worked with Siemens and Target. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Anand.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Anand, and I work as a senior manager in Eurofins IT India, where I oversee a complete development lifecycle for the Agile development. I have over 19 years of experience and have been working more than 10 years in Agile world. In fact, I'm an Agile enthusiast, so I like to learn new things. I also like to pass on the things what I learn. Apart from what I do, I'm also certified in the PMI, ACP, and SAFe. But more than that, I'm also an avid quizzer, and I've represented the state in the various quizzing tournaments. So looking forward to today. Thank you.
Thanks, Anand. Moving on to Naveen.
Hey, thanks, Abhinav. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Naveen Kumar. I'm been working the 16 years in this industry and practicing Agile from last 8 years. So I'm also currently associated with ITC Infotech, where I've been tagged as a program manager. I takes care of majorly Agile program within the BFS area. Currently, we are doing a couple of the product transformation. So I'm not using as organization transformation. I'm using a term called product transformation. Currently, we're using. And as I'm an SPC and I coach and train the people within organization and external to our customers. And I also represent a meetup group in Bangalore called Agile Transformation Mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Naveen, and thanks to all the panelists for your introduction. So let's start with our discussion for the day. So the first question that I'll ask to all the panelist members is, We all know that yes isn't always an option for us, right? But what is your approach while evaluating a yes or no decision? So we'll start with Anand.
Okay, very interesting question, right? Yes, there are many times when you don't want to say yes, correct? And no is such a just a two-letter word, correct?
I'm sorry to
N-O, no.
interrupt,
How,
but there is
how
a
hard?
disturbance. So I request
That's right.
the panelists to
Can we, yeah, can we request those who are not speaking, can you go for a mute?
yes, I think we all can go on mute, and when it's our turn to speak, we can
Maybe
try.
Shreya, I think you may have, you can do a mute all. Do we have any option?
I have done it. I think it should stop now. Please check once.
I think we are good. Over to you, Anand.
All right.
Okay, so as I was saying, no is such a small two-letter word, right? So as I learned from one of my leaders in the past, how hard can it be? Well, actually, in this case, it can really be hard to say no. And that is generally because it's not easy the way we are generally brought up with. In many cases, no is treated as a rejection. And therefore, there's always this in the mind that should I really say no? How can I actually say no? So, what do I do before I actually end up saying no? What are the things that I go about evaluating? Well, first and foremost is to listen fully. You try to listen to what the person has to say before you make your decision. That's the first thing, because if you decide even before person has spoken, you're not giving a fair chance, right? And then if you really want to say no, then you say no. That is, after you know all the reasons behind that, and then be firm with what you want to say. One of the other things which I generally also do is keep in mind that when I'm saying no, I'm not saying no to the person. I'm actually saying no to the request or the suggestion which is brought in. And this generally avoids a lot of ambiguity. Hey, how do I continue with the person? And then I'm always prepared to say that maybe I'm letting go of something better. So each time you say no, then maybe you're denying yourself something. So that is also something that I make up in my mind to say, okay, now when I'm saying no, then I know what are the consequences and I'm fully prepared to take them on. So these are the general things which I generally do in my mind, could be in seconds, could be in a minute, before I actually take a decision and then stand by that decision firmly. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Abhinav,
a great insight, Anand.
frankly speaking, yeah, I mean, to be very frank, from the moment we wake up from the bed until we go back to sleep, right? I think we make a lot of decisions. Some are conscious, some are unconscious. Some we make with the gut feeling. Some for the at least for the ones which really needs our attention. And then I would always go back to the the scientific way. I mean, though saying no is an art, but at least coming to the decision is always, at least it has got some process oriented or scientific way to kind of apply. I would always go back to the DAR process, decision analysis resolution. And some of the elements that I make sure whenever it is related to the work or some of the complex decisions that I am making, or as a collective team that we are making, I would always go with that. Okay, so that all are aligned to that common vision and then to the roadmap, or to whatever is that goal that we have set out to make a decision for, right? And also consider the impact. I mean, what are the short term impacts, the long term impacts? Have we considered all the risks and issues and assumptions, right? Those elements of it, and make sure that everybody are on common page while arriving to those decisions and have a working agreement. And for whatever may be the outcome, whether it is be it yes or no, but always consider looking things from a greater good kind of perspective. And when you come to a decision, always have a rational, so you're kind of very pragmatic, and you have reasons why you have arrived to that either yes or no. I mean, these are some of the elements that I always make sure, while saying no is an art, but at least you have some science behind.
Yeah, that's a good scientific approach that you have touched upon, Savita. Thanks. Naveen would like to hear your
Yes,
insight.
yes. I think I will add a point from where Savita left. Saying no is an art, it is not a science. Okay. Saying no is very easy. because it's a 2 words. I'll just give you an example. Just before adding this point, I was having my apartment discussion where the people were saying that we need to implement blah blah blah. So many things are saying. So I just say no. So the moment when I say no, everybody started jumping on my head. Okay, yeah, Naveen, you're always saying no. But when I'm saying no, I'm doing my homework. Okay, so I know that. Okay, before, as I said, right, generally we said it. Okay, read the people's shoe and try to understand why you are saying no. When you are saying no, so I have a many things. Like when my kid asks me to, okay, Nana, can you buy a PlayStation for me? I say no. Well, before, but my son will not understand when I say no. But I do my preparation. Okay, when he say no's, what are the things I should be doing? Those things. Let's say whatever. Okay, I'm not giving any ready-made answers now, but I should be ready to saying no. But at the same time, provided these are the reasons. So this is how generally I prepare. This is what legally whenever we are working as a delivery side or program side, so we may be taking so many pressures, like it could be peer pressure, could be customer pressure, could be even the team member pressure. I'm not saying that peer level, at the team member level. So the moment these days, right, in the pandemic situation, BMR sees that I don't know, the moment if I say no, what will happen to other side? Okay, will he take as a negatively? What will happen? So do your homework. So that's the reason our title itself is saying it is an art. That is how I take it.
Great, Naveen. That's again a great insight to this. So, can you guys share an anecdote from your experience that what is the toughest situation that you had to say no in? So maybe we'll start with Savita.
Sure, Abhinav. Okay, so if I had to quote many years back, okay, when I was a new mom, and I was struggling greatly, to outperform both at work and as well as at home. I'm sure many of the women leaders or colleagues who are really, they would kind of vouch for this situation. I guess it's most of the people who'd really go through that, right? And I was really in a crossroads to decide whether I want to quit my job or, I want to take up a, homemaking or to become a full-time mom. I think that was one of the toughest decision that I had to really make, because I had a lot of aspirations towards my career, and it was very difficult for me to give up, and make such, that was a difficult situation. So after having a lot of dialogue and connects with my friends, and it's a bigger decision for me. I mean, I was all scared too, right? And then finally I had to say no to folks at home. I'm not ready to quit my career, right? And at the same time I also said, okay, I while I'm saying no to quit this job, but I also need and support, and I want to really develop that ecosystem of support at home, right? And I think that was a very courageous conversation that I really had to do, but I'm glad, okay. And then that really kind of worked out. So at times, having the toughest conversations and saying no with a conviction, with a reason why you want to say no, it really kind of works out. So it not only kind of helped me balance things out. I mean, the ecosystem which was developed at home, not only balance but also thrive at whatever that I'm kind of doing, right? So sometimes we have to just hold that courage and then say no. That's it.
That's great, Savita. Anand, what about you?
Yes, first of all, very well said, Savita. I think that is something which is always we have to take decisions, right, when we are at crossroads. Well, in my case, I think there have been quite a few times when I've had to say no. And right, if I have to look at maybe something which is very difficult to say no, then I'd like to go back to some of the few years back, or maybe several years back, actually. So I was working in one of my previous organizations, and there, what they wanted me to do is, apart from my team, they also wanted me to step in and take care of another team which was going through a very bad phase. And they also did not have a leader, because the so-called leader was removed, right? And it was in that time of the time when I was also having quite a bit going on in my personal life. But the management expected that, hey, it's a win-win situation. You just say yes, because then it will also help them to continue with that business with the client. And at the same time, it should also be some kind of a career growth or a progression for me. Right. So it was expected that it should be a straightforward yes. But it wasn't that straightforward, because then I had to see what would it mean. It would mean that a lot of sacrifices, you can say, on the personal front, and a lot of things that you'll have to do in order to make it work, for which I wasn't ready. And remember what I said earlier when I said, when you're making no, one of the things which I always do is be ready to let go of some opportunity. See, what I believe is if you say no, yes, I'm saying no to something, but I'm also saying yes to something else. There is another opportunity. It's a trade-off. So when I'm saying yes to something else, when I'm saying no here, which actually helps me. And so that was the basic thing at that time. See, when you're young and ambitious, it is generally not that very easy to say no. But in fact, I'm very happy that I said no, because that actually served me well. And whatever I did, I could do well and progress in my career, which may or may not have been the case if you decide to take up more than what you can chew.
That's great, Anand. And as you rightly pointed out, right, when we say no to something, we are saying yes to something else. So that's rightly put. Naveen, we'd like to hear from you as well.
Yes. So I'll add some point because sorry, I'm everything I'm pulling from the my existing person. Anand said, so whenever you try to say 100 yes and one time you say no, the people will point only the no point. So whatever 100 times you say yes, they will least bother. I'll give you one instance. So currently I am with a service organization. Previously I was with the captive organization. I know that people, most of you are knowing that when you are shifting your career from one type of organization to another type of organization, like especially in my case, I'll just give you. When I was in a Target, I think I used to say that very leisure life. Maybe Savita might be knowing that the way even we miss our old the Target days. Even I working for my ITC. So in ITC, when I took up the new assignment, so the management is expected some new change of life. So when I suggested something, it is not only to what we need to change, we need to change from the team. Some of the things as a leaders we need to change. As I said, let's say it is not about the we are asking the team to change. Some of the things we also need to change. So obviously, my leaders directly say no because they don't want it to leave from their comfortable zone. So, but I said, no, we have to come out from those things. And it took a lot of time to gain the trust of leaders. And at the same time, the people, the customer who is sitting some thousands of miles at other shore. So to gain the, for whatever they are saying, I'm directly saying no, because I just wanted to come out from the traditional way of working to the new way of working. So that time, whatever you are saying no, so you have to, again, I'm going back to the first answer what I gave. So how I have prepared, and it took a lot of time for me. Again, if you ask me, okay, what are the things you do? Even I don't remember. Maybe if you say that, okay, by implementing this, maybe this is working at this point of time, but this may not work in the next point of time. So it is at the situation and said no. So this is how generally I face. Every day is the toughest and every day is the easiest.
Thanks, Naveen. That's a good perspective that you have put. Okay, moving forward, I'd like to ask Anand. I'll like to pose a question to Anand that Anand, as someone who is being told no to, since you're working in a people managerial capacity, right? What are your tips to your fellow managers or your peers? How should they review or react in such a situation?
Yes, again, a very good question now. So this is something which definitely happens, right? If not frequently, at least every now and then. When you go in and ask for certain things, see, it could be something you say, hey, I need more people in the team. Answer could be no. And here say, oh no, now I think my team has done very well. Maybe we need to have a party or something. The answer could be no. So there could be different things like you want to start a new project. There could be something. The answer could be no. Right. So what do you do? Again, the basic things that you do are more or less the same. It does not matter who it is, right? Whether it's your boss, it's your leadership team, or it's your peer or your subordinate. What I believe is the basic and the ground rules are the same. Now, when I'm at the receiving end, the first thing, of course, I do is to be attentive and listen. If I'm not clear, if the answer is just I pose a question and the answer is no, then I prod on further. I say, okay, could you try to tell me the reason or the rationale behind the no? Because that is very important for me. See, for me, it does not matter that you have said no. I'd like to understand why was it a no? And then maybe I could understand that and come up with an alternate approach. Like It recently happened. We did actually very well in our organization, in the work, what we did throughout the year in spite of the COVID and stuff. And then we wanted to see if there could be some kind of a bonus for the team, right? And the answer was no. Okay, then why no, right? Then you try to understand, okay, so there are problems when you try to do some cash awards, when you do for some, you don't do for some. Okay, then I understand. I get it. So you're not against the idea of rewarding. What you're against is actually the particular point which I brought about, or the particular way of how I want to be rewarded. So I then can go back and then try to come with an alternate approach. And always this is what I say, okay, fine, if I come with a different approach, would that be okay for you? And that more or less helps. See, no one just wants to say no, right? It's about trying to find the right way of putting it across. And then most crucially, what I always will also say to others is sometimes be prepared to lose a battle in order to win a war. You cannot be always the guy who is persistent and say, no, I won't take no for an answer. When there is a logic, when there is a reason, you should say, fine, agreed, and then move forward. That is when you could also, next time when you have your own point, then you can make it forward. And more importantly, what I would say to people is be prepared. Just don't go and say that, hey, now we should get a bonus, or I need one more person in the team. You need to be prepared with the facts where you say that, hey, I need this. Now, this is what will be the cost of this, but this will be the benefit in the long run, right? And that always makes it easier in order to do so. So, but be prepared without having data, without being prepared, just going and saying, I need it. Why? Because I need it. Then you're always going to get no for an answer.
Yeah, and that's a good insight, Anand. And as you mentioned, my takeaway from your response was that we have to always understand the reason why the no is being actually said. We don't have to take it as its face value. Maybe no is just being said for the particular option and not for the entire idea as a whole. So we have to analyze that situation holistically. So yeah, thanks for your insight on that. Next question that I'd like to ask to Naveen, and this has come from audience as well. Naveen, so how do you say no to your reporting managers or your senior leaders? Sorry, Naveen, you are speaking
Naveen, you're
on
on
mute.
mute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on mute. See, to be very honest, even I am also a human being. I also don't like to hear a no from anyone. Okay, so even though beat whatever it is, and especially if you are in a superior level, that guy, no one will ready to listen whatever it is there. So that means I said you have to do it. I think it. Many of in conferences I keep on telling about my leader who was in my previous organization. He used to tell, Naveen, you have told me 3 times no in this week. Gone case. So I used to keep myself quiet. But once I become a leader, so I started, okay. So it is not only hearing from no, okay, how do I say no to my leaders? So when I heard, so my mentor used to tell me, okay, Naveen, you are saying you can say absolutely no to anyone. It's a beat superior or beat supervisor, anyone. So when you are saying no, you also tell me that why you are saying no. Okay, it is not again from the beginning we have been talking about no is a 2 words. Okay, 2 words and it is an art. So when you say then how you are demonstrating your no. Okay, hey manager, okay, I'm not able to deliver this program so and so date because of ABC reasons. Okay, you provide me XYZ by this date, I can able to deliver. So if you are not doing your homework, as we said, right, whenever you are going for it, especially when we are talking about in Agile, so everything is a communication. So yeah, you need to be, that's what in our Agile coaching sessions or a Scrum Master session or a product owner session, we always key that you need to communicate in advance, communicate. So how you communicate it? Say, I always says no to my manager. It's absolute, especially in a year, like morning when I was speaking, Savita, she pinged me in the morning at 8 o'clock. Naveen, I want to talk to you. My son directly said, my father is busy, finished. Then why you said no? Nana, I know that you are working till late evening. So I said no, everything. So when you are saying, that's what I'm teaching to my son. When you are saying no, go with, okay, my father was working till late night. So he was sleeping. So that's the reason he cannot take the call. So if you're going with the data, I'm just relating whatever is happening, so it will be easy for us to connect rather than just going what is happening in the last month. So now, if you look at end of the financial year, and most of the managers will be still working, even though they are attending this conference, because they need to clean up this financial year before the 31st of March. So how do we say that, okay, hey CEO, I am unable to meet this deadline by this time because my invoicing is not done, the revenue is not going to come. So I'm shortfall of 100k, 200k, 300k. So but I'll go this. So how do you say this thing? So but for that, I am doing my exercise. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, we are doing a product. As I said, right, we are doing a product transformation. So I have given you my roadmap of by when which MVP will go to that market, and also it's also not giving, but also you're saying that, okay, if you're not giving my ABC requirement, which we call as the definition of ready, if you're not giving my ready activities, even though I am considering for a development, I may not able to say no, I'm not going to deliver you. So this is like generally we write, and especially when we are, as everybody's in agile world from last 7-8 years, everything they are talking in agile. So there is a one word in a Scrum team, one of the value of Scrum team called courage. So courage to say no. So but when you say courage to no, it is just it's not just saying the no. Say no with evidences. So that is how I practice.
Just to add on, whenever you go back to leaders with your nose, do your homework thoroughly. Okay, it is not just standing in your shoes and doing the homework. I mean, you stand in their kind of perspective. Think about it. What are the consequences by saying this? No, what is that we are gonna lose? Okay, what is it at the cost of it that we are making this decision? Okay, many a times, you needn't have to say no and then stop it. You can also kind of think of what are the alternative solutions. Okay, we cannot do this. This is a no, but can we do this in this way, XYZ? Okay, think of the alternate solutions and also think from their kind of standing in their shoe perspective. How can we really take it forward so that it is not just a dead end no, right? As long as it is not related to your integrity, as long as you're not kind of violating the compliances part of it, those are the kind of dead end no's. But otherwise, whenever you go back to your leaders, do your homework, stand in the shoes, and then at the cost of what that we are telling this no, that you really have to weigh in.
Yeah, I think I'll
Thanks,
add one
thanks,
more
Naveen
point.
and
Sorry,
Savita. Yes,
Abhinav, I'll take one more point. I think
yeah.
thanks. I think Savita brought an idea, especially the product owners. So these days, so when they are going the no, right? So all of a sudden we keep saying that businesses keep on changing the requirement. We say no, no, no. So when we are saying no, why we cannot? Okay, what is an opportunity cost we are losing? Okay, what is the market share we are losing? If we can go with this data, so obviously everyone will definitely listen. End of the day, they are also humans, not robots.
Thanks, Naveen and Savita. Great insight on that. So yeah, articulation is a very important part when you are going ahead and saying no. Yeah, I do completely agree with that. Next question, maybe I want to pose to Savita. So, and I want to shift gears here because we have been talking till now in terms of how to say no to others. But Savita, I want to get your opinion on. Sometimes it is very important to say no to yourself. So, how does one do that?
Okay, I think that's a pretty easy question, Abhinav. I think telling no to self is the easiest one because you need not to convince too much, right? But it is more of a self-talk, okay? That what I mean, typically I have with myself. Say, example. I mean, if something is, I mean, just to take an hypothetical example, and I'm getting too much of work, I would always look at what is currently on my plate. Okay, so is it full or is it kind of can I accommodate that? Okay, if it is absolutely I really cannot accommodate, so look at always that the urgency and then importance, the magic quadrant, right? If something is really urgent and an impact and it is going to create an impact, I would always try to do the trade off. Okay, instead of XYZ, can I take that in and then can I deliver this little later at this kind of date? So have the trade off mechanism, right? I mean, in that case, I think it always works. And at times, saying no to self, it is important, especially I think a couple of years back when I was involved in doing an RFP and then working with suppliers across different geographies and different timelines, and then I would kind of stretch myself to the late and to the very late in the evening, so my daughter would just peep in and then give a smile and go. So that would be the indication. So later on, and I had a discussion with one of my friend, and she gave me a piece of advice. And then later on, I had to say no to myself. Okay, if I'm scheduling a meeting, so I'm not gonna go beyond this timeline. I would always schedule everything, with the overlapping time, and then make sure all the major things gets done within that time. So those are the moments that I had to say no to myself, and then some of the habits that we have, right? Example, we set great resolutions for the new year, and then pretty soon there'll be kind of we are okay to let go of them. I mean, those no, I'm not we should not kind of let go them off, right? So in those are the moments we have to it's good to say to ourselves sometimes no. I think that that's a pretty easy one. I mean, convincing others is the it requires a lot of homework to be done, but convincing self is the easiest one.
So personally, like for me, switching work has been very difficult, right? Saying no to ourselves, because now in due to this pandemic, we all are working from home. So all the devices are readily available to us. So instead of going, so we can't go out obviously. So our next go-to reaction is, okay, why not finish up some pending work? So yeah, that is where it hits home, wherein you have to say no to yourself that, okay, I have done my work for today. There are no urgent pending tasks for the day. Maybe I can do it for tomorrow. So these are some things I think many people will resonate with. So I have a follow-up question on this, and this I'd like to ask to Anand. So Anand, I would like to rephrase this particular question which I asked Savita in a way that sometimes you need to say no in personal life to accommodate professional life. So it's kind of an other way around. So you have to give priorities to the professional life over your personal life. So how do one make such kind of a decision and then balance it with your family as well?
You answered it yourself, Abhinav, right? Sometimes. So if it was every time, then I think that is not something which really works out well. So I would say the key there is sometimes. So let me tell you what I actually do. So when such things generally come in, what I do is first I see, okay, now what is required? Is this something which takes 10 minutes to complete? Or if you say, no, I'll do it later, maybe you're in a call with your boss for 20 minutes to say why you will do it tomorrow. Then maybe you just get it done. That is much quicker, right? And I'm sure most of us have actually experienced this, right? When you say no, then you have to go, you have to explain and so on, correct? But yes, there are sometimes the circumstances when actually you need to prioritize your professional life over the personal life, right? And it depends on what happens. I can give you two instances in the past 2 years where it had to happen. One was when we had a cyber attack in our company, and then we wanted to move things from, you can say, the local or the on-premise to the cloud, right? When these things happen, then you want to be very fast because you want to minimize the impact you cause the customers. Now, this is not the time when you say, hey, no, I have something planned for the weekend, or I've planned something for the evening, so I cannot be available. Why? Because the impact is higher, and not doing so has very lot of consequences. The second and more recent example is when we went into the pandemic, right? So last year, when the pandemic happened and around April, we had to set up a IT system in order to help COVID testing. And we had to build it within 6 days so that we can be ahead of our competitors in order to get a lot of business. Well, 6 days? Very simple. You could say, oh, that is going to be a full system from a scratch. The lab was using Excel. Now they wanted to move to IT because they were expecting 15,000 samples around every day from 100 or 200 before. Well, now that's going to take a lot of doing, right? It does mean that, yes, you will have to spend more hours. In fact, the team had to spend more hours, work sometimes on that weekend as well in order to complete. But then again, you ask yourself a question, what happens if I don't do it? Can it wait? Well, then some other competitor may take it, go, then you lose the business, which indirectly could then tomorrow come back and say in the times of pandemic that you have less work to do, which could lead to loss of jobs or cuts and so on. So in such situations, you always then have to prioritize your personal life. Yes, it's an inconvenience, but when you do that, it actually helps. In fact, today we process over 70 to 80,000 samples or 6 different labs across in the Europe, which has actually taken off well because of those 6 days which served as a backbone. So looking back, do I regret? No, I don't regret the decision which I took. But again, this is not something that you will want to do each and every time, right? This is something which you do. Sometimes you ask yourself a question, can this wait till tomorrow? And 70% of the times it can actually wait, right? So that's what it is. So what will happen if I don't do it now, but I do it tomorrow morning? Well, it would work. Then in those cases, you actually go ahead and then you wait. So remember, yes, in a nutshell, you can, and sometimes you will have to prioritize your professional life over personal, but then make sure that it is not always. Keep the goals clear. Like in this case said, we had to have a system up in 6 days. Now, what shouldn't happen is after the 6th day, you come and say, now I need these features. Can you give me in 1 day or 2 days? Right? So that should not happen. The goals need to be very clear. Take a break. So even if you are prioritizing professional life, it does not mean that you have to work 10, 15, 20 hours straight. Take a break in between. Make sure things are well communicated to the team and to the stakeholders. And also your family. That is very important, where you very clearly say that, hey, this is the reason, this is what I'm doing. And then maybe also plan something that after that you will take a break for a day or two or something which you plan. And this also discuss this with your management and the leadership team. And generally I've found that they're very supportive when you're very clear in what you do. So as you said in your question, Abhinav, again, this is something for sometimes, not for always.
Yeah, great insight, Anand. Truly great. So, building on to a point that you mentioned towards the end of your conversation, I'd like to ask a question to Naveen. So, Naveen, every one of us now and then come across a scenario wherein we are pressed against the delivery schedule and the customer is pushing new requirements. So, how does one handle such a situation?
Again, it's going to be a norm. Okay, this is not changed when I was a developer, and it is not going to be changed in the future also. Okay, and this is generally we call as a cat and rat fight between customer and service people. So customer keeps on changing the requirement because he wanted to be competitive in the market. Okay, if you take an example of what if the requirements are not getting changed because the requirements are getting validated against the market, that's why he's coming. And obviously when you are coming in the requirements, so how you plan your activities, it's all up to, like, my customer comes always, okay, he keeps on changing requirement, we grip them, okay, why are you changing requirement? First of all, you finalize your requirement, then we are ready to deliver. But when you are coming there, so what as a leader, so what we say is, okay, let's get ready for those also. Okay, we always, because generally being as a service company, right, generally we don't say no, honestly, because we love your billing, so obviously we don't say no. But say no in a artistic way. Okay, we are not saying no because we say yes because of this reason. And obviously, like any service company, right, generally none of the leaders says no. Okay, whatever because end of the day customer is the king. That's how the verb we keep. If I'm in a captive organization, maybe my tone will change. For everything I'll start my discussion with the no only. But as I'm on the other side of the coin, so I will definitely start, don't, my no will be at the end, which is a condition supply. So obviously, how do I know that? Okay, I'm saying no because of these reasons. So when the customer is coming, that is where the change agent are coming in. Yes, the customers always come with a change in requirement. We need to get ready for that. So we keep our customers as well as our team prepared in advance so that whenever he comes, we'll be there. And in this way, right, maybe what we are saying that most of the times I won't say no my customer, because we know that, because what we have done, right, we have trained our customer as well as our team in such a way that, okay, why customer is coming for changing the requirement. Okay, when you are changing the requirement, why are you changing requirement? Because you wanted to be competitive in the market. That's the reason. If you look at in our entire SDLC world, no one is talking about project development. We are talking about product development. So that is something which we are these days, people are, everybody is talking about product development mindset rather than project development mindset. In a project development mindset, yes, you have a many no's, but whereas in a product development mindset, you don't have a no, because when you have a no, there is a strong reason for that. Hope.
Yeah, Sandra rightly said, and it's in this case it's more about outcomes rather than output, right? So yeah,
Yes.
true. So I think
Yeah, I
Anand has
also
an
agree
insight on this.
to Naveen.
Yeah, go ahead, Savita. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Savita.
I also agree to the point what Naveen made. The kind of the environment or the culture in the surveys and the product and the GCC. I think it is kind of it varies, obviously, and the negotiation power, bargaining power with respect to the no's also kind of varies. I mean, I just want to make that point. Yeah.
Thanks, Savita. Anand, you had
So
something
if
to
I
say.
can quickly try to add on from where Naveen left, right? See, the change in requirements, and this I have actually witnessed this a lot in the past few months or 1 year, maybe 10 months or so, right? There are two things which actually happen. One is requirement changes, right? So what you have been given, that changes. And then sometimes it is something new which comes up, which is of a priority. These are the two things which basically typically happen. And I've seen it. And believe me, generally my lead time, cycle time is maximum of 5 to 6 days from the time when we have something to time it is in production. But I've seen a couple of times last year when we had a requirement, we developed it, it went to business testing in 3 days, and they wanted a change. Why? Because they had changed machines in the lab, they had changed things because of the things which are very fastly changing, because they wanted to handle more samples in the lab because of the COVID testing demand, which went up. So the entire thing had to be changed. And sometimes you also come up with some new requirements because there are new machines come in, the new things which come in, and then you want to adapt. And in an uncertain world like COVID, where they do not know that when they will get a samples, they get a big government order and so on, these things are something which you need to learn to accept. So sometimes what we also do in this scenario is say, okay, can I cut down my cycle of sprint from say 2 weeks to 1 week? In fact, we ended up in Kanban with a weekly replenishment meeting and then tell the customer that, hey, fine, if you come something on Wednesday, could you then wait till Friday when we'll replenish it and plan for next week? So we do understand that things are important, but then waiting for a couple of days is easier than waiting, let's say, for 2 weeks for a sprint to end, or 3 weeks, like we were in our case. We were doing 3 week sprints when we started. So that's what I had to say.
Okay, great, Anand, for that insight. I have one last question before, and then maybe we can take some question from the audience as well. Savita, I wanted to ask you that since we are working from home now since the last year, how has saying no evolved? Has it been easier in virtual mode than a face-to-face conversation?
If I have to attempt, I think it has been little difficult. Okay, I think having a face-to-face conversation always helps because you know how is the other person is kind of responding, or how are they really taking it in the intended way, right? And how are they really feeling emotionally? Is there any kind of variation, or are they kind of taking no as a no, or is it like what exactly is happening, right? I mean, you would have an access to those kind of elements when you have a face-to-face discussion, and that is always easy to kind of handle, right? In a world, mostly people are on the call, or even with the kind of with the video on. It is very difficult to kind of judge what exactly how is the other person is really receiving, though you are very assertive, though you're empathetic, and while you are saying no to it, right? Even with all the rationale. So I really see that as a missing element. So it is quite difficult. Okay, how do you really say no while having a face-to-face conversation, or kind of while you're writing a no mailer, right? Or while you're on the call, and then how do you really kind of convey that message as a no? It is quite difficult. I mean, with the virtual world, it has been little more difficult, I would say. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more of a face-to-face person, so I can totally resonate to what you just said. Anand, please.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll give you a completely different viewpoint, right? And that happens. It is our viewpoint and what we see. So I actually find that saying no has become easier than in virtual than in face to face. See, normally if I was to, or let's say some of my team member was to meet me and then they had to say no, saying no face to face always has this little bit of stigma, right? Then you need to see that, okay, when I say, how will the person take it? What will happen? Whereas when you're sitting behind this virtual curtains, what I found that the no actually comes easier. If you're not in a video call, even more better. I can just say no. And then you don't look at the face of the person. I can always assume that when I'm saying no, my boss is always smiling. I can paint a picture, which is never possible when you are in the face to face and when you're talking against 1 feet or 2 feet away from it. So that's the perspective I have. But yes, actually, for the leaders and the managers, it becomes more difficult to judge in a way. So fully agree.
That's a good point, Anand. Maybe I'll start thinking around those lines as well, and imagining my boss being smiling when I'm saying no. So thanks for sharing that. I think we have 5 more minutes
But
left, so we'll
you
take.
would Abhinav, you
Yes,
would
Savita.
miss on what is the perception which is being built, behind that virtual curtain. Okay, that you will
Absolutely.
really miss on unless it is a face to face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to add on, Abhinav, I just have one last point to mention. Though you're very assertive and you're being very empathetic, and then you really have to start practicing, to tell no. I mean, that's where the real kind of tough thing comes into picture. So you might say, Savita, well, great, I've applied the DAR, I've considered all the criterias and then recommends, and I've come to a rational and okay, but still, if you struggle to say no, then that there is something else to really reflect on. Okay, so go back to your childhood days, and are there any limiting beliefs? Because I mean, that's what that I have realized early on in my career. Though I had done all the homework, but still I would struggle to kind of convey what I really wanted to convey, because I was raised in an environment where it is constantly told. I think it is pretty much it is embedded in our culture. You cannot reply back to elders, you cannot really kind of question back, right? And if you have those as a limiting belief, you really have to work on, reflect, go back, reflect on, work on, and add a newer belief, and then start practicing it very consciously, right? And start telling no. I mean, consciously you make an effort to say no. I know it is quite uncomfortable to say, but do all the homework and start practicing. Unless you kind of overcome, it will still be a difficult two letter words to say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think, Savita, you have touched base on the question that I was going to ask, not the answer part of it. The question is from the audience, and the question is, what to do when you get a kickback for saying no, or when you are reprimanded for saying no. So how does one kind of come out of that situation? So that's open. This is open to all the panelists. If you like to share your insight.
I will take this question. Maybe this is my answer. It is not a right answer. Again, I'm repeat.
Yeah.
So these days, saying no is easy to our supervisor than my reporting people who are reporting to me. Because at least I am a supervisor. I mean, my manager or whoever it is. At least he has passed through me because he has seen my life. So at least he knows that on what basis I am saying no. But when I'm saying no to my subordinate, those my PMs or my project leads, at the moment when I say no, so first of all they lock their mind there itself. Okay, my boss said no for me, whatever I think. Okay, I'll show him. So if you look at in pandemic situation, I'm just giving example. We are doing our appraisal discussion. The team member is expecting some hike this year, and we already said there is a no from me immediately, and I'm very hesitate to say no him because he's a star performer. Because of XYZ reason, I'm unable to satisfy him this year, and I'm struggling a lot to say no him because just because I have a no answer to him, I cannot find his mistakes. Okay, but how I can give a constructive feedback to him, but again I know that I'm going to lose that battle, but still I have to say no to him because this is the one of the challenging phase as a leaders. Everyone is these days willing. Saying no is very easy to my superior, but saying no is, and at least for me, at least I am practicing saying no, is very difficult to my subordinate who is reporting to me, who was working for me. So this is how I say. But how do you say that? But how I am saying is, again, still I'm learning, and every day it is new learning. Whatever I'm the formula which I am applying on the person X, and that is absolutely a failure formula on the person Y. So still I'm learning. Every year this is a learning, especially in a pandemic situation, and speaking in a virtual with them, even though, as I said, right, a virtual curtain and whatever we are using, but still I am facing a lot of struggles to say no to my subordinate, not the superiors.
Yeah, Naveen, I agree to your point. There is no rule book when it comes to saying no, right? It depends on situation. It depends on the person with whom you are dealing with. It depends on the relationship that you have or had with that person in the past. So there are a lot of nuances, lot of variables when it comes to that. So I think we are right on time. We had a good discussion on this. And as a closing remark, I would just like to steal one of the remarks mentioned by Anand during our conversation, that if you're saying no to something, you are saying yes to something else. So it really resonated with me. Thank you, Naveen, Savita, Anand, for your time and for being panelists for this session. And thank you so much to all the audience members for listening in patiently to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
all.
Abhinav. Thank you so much, Savita,
Thank
Anand,
you.
and Naveen, for such an
Thank you
interesting.
all.
We
Great.
definitely had a lot to learn. Thank you. We learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.